Hey, what is up, you guys? It's Dustin, and I am back with another video. And in this video, I want to talk about Boeing and everything that is going on with them. I feel like this year started off in a really bizarre way because if you are on TikTok, you would know that it started out with people showing that doors were flying off planes.
The door plug that blew off mid-air on that Alaska Airlines flight has been found.
Yeah, and this comes as we learned there was a warning light that had previously lit up on the plane several times on previous flights.
Landing gears and tires have been falling off of planes. And I swear all this stuff started with that woman when she said this mother is not real.
That back there is not real.
So if you guys want to know what's going on with Boeing and why you may want to be cautious on who you fly with and what kind of plane, stay tuned to this video. Me, myself, I have not ever really been afraid of flying, but now I'm second guessing that because there's so many new reports of what's going on with different Boeing planes that I think that the next time I take a trip, I'm actually gonna drive. Because between the doors flying off, the landing gears getting stuck, tires flying off, and all of that stuff, recently there has been a few whistleblowers that have came forward about Boeing, and they've raised a ton of concerns about the safety of planes.
Every 5 seconds of every day, a Boeing 737 takes off or lands somewhere in the world. But a year-long investigation by Al Jazeera indicates that for 10 years, Boeing has been warned about the safety of more than 1,500 of these planes, and that it has ignored its own evidence.
Nobody cared about the safety aspect. It was all about money. It was all about being lean and making parts as inexpensively as possible for Boeing.
According to claims made in a US federal court case, aircraft in the 737 Next Generation series, made between 1996 and 2004, were fitted with bogus, ill-fitting, and illegal parts.
So there are two articles that I want to read in this video just because I want to give you guys some background on what's been going on other than just saying it. The first one's going to be a Newsweek article and the second one is going to be a BBC article. And then toward the end, we're going to get into some really crazy stuff, like almost conspiracy level type of stuff. As always, the articles that I read and react to will be linked in the description box down below if you'd like to read along or if you'd just like to read for yourself. The first article's headline is Full List of Boeing Plane Incidents in 2024, and this was published on January 24th. With the year less than a month old, Boeing has already seen several issues with some of its planes, prompting action from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. The FAA announced this month that it was ordering a temporary grounding of certain Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft operated by U.S. airlines after planes experienced several issues around the globe. Now think about this, how many people at any given time are up in the air flying? In my whole life, I've always heard that airplanes are supposed to be way more safe than cars, but it's really not seeming that way these days. The Emergency Airworthiness Directive, EAD, that will be issued shortly will require operators to inspect aircraft before further flight that do not meet the inspection cycle specified in the EAD. January 5th, a Boeing 737 MAX operated by Alaska Airlines flying to Ontario, California was forced to make an emergency landing at the Portland International Airport after a portion of its fuselage ripped off.
We begin with developing news. Alaska Airlines has temporarily grounded all Boeing MAX 9 aircraft following a mid-air emergency.
Yeah, a large section of one aircraft blew out moments after takeoff. None of the passengers or crew members were seriously hurt. The plane was headed to our area. KTLA's Carlos Herrera is here with the latest developments. Carlos?
Yeah, some very scary moments, guys. Some passengers tell us they're grateful to make it out alive. That Alaska Airlines flight headed to Ontario, and it just announced that they will be grounding their fleet of 65 Boeing 737-9 aircraft following the mid-air scare in Portland. The terrifying moments unfolded about 20 minutes into the flight bound for Ontario. Video from inside the 10-week-old Boeing 737 MAX 9 plane shows the chilling scene inside, oxygen masks dropping down and wind blasting into the cabin.
A video posted by B&O News on X shows the plane making an emergency landing as a portion of it has been ripped off. Several items, including boxes, were sucked out of the plane when it suddenly depressurized. Everyone is safe, the post said. And I believe this is when that iPhone went viral for falling out of the plane and not having a scratch on it when it hit the ground.
Nearly a week after his iPhone and his shoe and a sock were all sucked out of that hole in the side of an Alaska Airlines flight, A passenger has that phone back tonight, and it still works.
But the entire terrifying experience still has Quang Tran and his friends in disbelief about what happened just feet from where they were sitting. It was last Friday night that door plug ripped away from a Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet, creating a massive hole in the plane. Amazingly, no one was seriously hurt, but the freak blowout is something passengers will never forget.
January 13th, a Boeing 737-800 operated by Japan's All Nippon Airways was forced to cancel its takeoff on January 13th after a window in the cockpit cracked. I get with anything that has repeated use like planes, cars, bikes, trikes, anything that you use daily, there's going to be maintenance needed, but how the hell do you end up with the whole crack in the windshield of the cockpit? According to Reuters, a spokesperson for the airline said the crack was on an outer layer of the window and noted that it was not something that affected the flight's control or pressurization. January 17th, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was scheduled to travel on a Boeing 737 from Switzerland on January 17th, but was forced to board a different plane after an issue relating to a possible oxygen leak.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was briefly stranded in Switzerland on Wednesday after his plane experienced what a member of his traveling press pool said was a, quote, critical failure related to an oxygen leak.
So not only is Boeing having an issue with windows, they're also having an issue with doors, and they're also having issues with the pressurization of the cabin. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be on a plane that doesn't have the correct pressure. And if you don't know what that means, you can't breathe. Matt Miller, a spokesperson for the State Department, said that the Boeing 737 experienced a mechanical issue, and a second Boeing airplane was sent to Blinken back to the U.S. January 19th, videos posted on social media on January 19th captured flames coming out of a Boeing 747-8 in Miami, Florida. Atlas Air Flight 95 returned safely to Miami International Airport around 10:30 p.m. local time on Thursday, January 18th, after the crew reported an engine failure. A spokesperson for the FAA told Newsweek last week the Boeing 747 was heading for an airport in Puerto Rico.
A cargo plane was forced to make an emergency landing overnight in Miami International Airport after experiencing engine failure. The pilot made a mayday call. Look at that. Wow. Reporting an engine fire and requested permission to return to the airport. Video posted on social media shows the Atlas Air Boeing 747 with flames shooting out of its wing as it returned to the airport. It landed safely. Good job. The cause of the fire under investigation.
And keep in mind, you guys, it's not just one airline that has these Boeings. All of them have them. And that feels a little bit like nightmare fuel. January 20th, a Boeing 757 operated by Delta Airlines lost a wheel during an attempted takeoff. A spokesperson from Delta confirmed the incident to Newsweek and said Delta Flight 982 ATL to BOG was taxiing from departure when a nose wheel tire came loose from the gear. All customers said their bags were removed from the aircraft, transferred to the gate, and onto a replacement aircraft. We apologize to our customers for the inconvenience.
Tonight, a Delta flight that was taxiing for takeoff from Atlanta bound for Colombia getting this alarming message from a plane nearby.
One of your nose tires just came off. It just rolled off the runway behind you.
The nose wheel falling off of the Boeing 757 and then rolling down an embankment at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport around 11:15 Saturday morning.
January 23rd, in a statement provided to Newsweek, Boeing announced that it was planning to hold a quality stand down on January 25th in Renton, Washington. During the session, production, delivery, and support teams will pause for a day so employees can take part in working sessions focused on quality, the announcement said. The statement also included portions of an internal message sent to employees that said the first of the stand downs will be held Thursday for the 737 program. Production, delivery, and support efforts will pause for a day so teammates can take part in working on sessions focused on quality. Honestly, and I'm going to be real with you, any company that I've ever worked with, it wasn't the people that I was working with that were making things unsafe, it was the actual company. And it's just my opinion that may be what's going on here. And as I was doing my research for this video, yesterday, ironically enough, there was another incident. 50 people are injured by a strong movement on a plane traveling from Australia to New Zealand. And guess what? It was a Boeing 787-900. So something's not good in the water here. Something's wrong. But now that I've given you a little bit of background on what's been going on with Boeing, let's talk about this whistleblower. Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, guess what? It's not Aflac. It always creeps me out when there's somebody that's a whistleblower and they come out and then eventually they're gone. And it's always under the guise of, oh, this person couldn't take it anymore, so they ended their life. I'm not buying it, especially in this case. So the headline of this article from BBC says, Boeing whistleblower John Barnett found dead in U.S. This was posted 23 hours ago. A former Boeing employee known for raising concerns about the firm's production standard has been found dead in the U.S. John Barnett worked for Boeing for more than 30 years before retiring in 2017. So this man put in 30 years with this company. In the days before his death, he had been giving evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear of Mr. Barnett's passing. Yeah, I'm sure you were. He was just wrapped up in litigation with you guys for years. And now all of a sudden he decided to delete his subscription to Life? I don't believe it. The Charleston County coroner confirmed his death to the BBC on Monday. It said that the 62-year-old had died from a self-inflicted wound on March 9th, and police were investigating. Mr. Barnett had worked for the U.S. plane giant for more than 30 years until his retirement in 2017 on health grounds. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant, making the 787 Dreamliner, a state-of-the-art airliner used in mainly long-haul routes. And I myself have never been on one of these huge planes. I've always wanted to travel international and go get stamps on my passport, but COVID literally ruined the world. I got my passport during COVID and I thought that it wasn't really going to be that big, but girl, I was wrong. In 2019, Mr. Barnett told the BBC that under pressure workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. Now remember the Secretary of State? Listen to this. He also said he had uncovered serious problems with oxygen systems, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. Could you imagine how terrified you would be already in an emergency going on in a plane, but then you need the oxygen mask and it doesn't work? And this is what really gets on my nerves about corporations and stuff. They would rather have this huge liability and payout during a lawsuit than actually fix the problem before it could actually hurt someone. He said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he had become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something the company denied. Automatically, if someone that is building something, if they say something's wrong, then something's wrong. It should not take an accident to get things repaired or looked at. He later told the BBC that workers had failed to follow procedures intended to track components through the factory, allowing defective components to go missing. He said in some cases, substandard parts had even been removed from scrap bins and fitted to planes that were being built to prevent delays on the production line. He also claimed that the tests on emergency oxygen systems due to be fitted to the 787 showed a failure rate of 25%, meaning that 1 in 4 could fail to deploy in a real-life emergency. And this is why I don't think I'm going to be flying anytime soon. If I have any business that I have to take care of, guess what? I'm driving. Boeing denied his assertions. However, a 2017 review by the U.S. regulator, the Federal Aviation Administration, did uphold some of Mr. Barnett's concerns. It established that the location of at least 53 non-confirming parts in the factory was unknown and that they were considered lost. Boeing was ordered to take remedial action. On the oxygen cylinders issue, the company said that in 2017 it had identified some oxygen bottles received from the supplier that were not deploying properly. It's funny how it's everyone's fault but their own. It couldn't be anything that you designed or put in your plane that could be the issue, right? After retiring, he embarked on a long-running legal action against the company. He accused it of denigrating his character and hampering his career because of the issues he pointed out. This was rejected by Boeing. Of course it was, because that just goes back to what I just said. They can't take any fault in anything. They can cause all these issues, they can cause all these problems for people, they can cause people to lose their lives, but until someone files a lawsuit that sticks, it's not their fault. At the time of his death, Mr. Barnett had been in Charleston for legal interviews linked to that case. Last week, he gave a formal deposition in which he was questioned by Boeing's lawyers before being cross-examined by his own counsel. He had been due to undergo further questioning on Saturday. When he did not appear, inquiries were made at his hotel. He was subsequently found dead in his truck in the hotel car park. Speaking to the BBC, his lawyer described his death as tragic. In a statement, Boeing said, "We are saddened by Mr. Barnett's passing and our thoughts are with his family and friends. His death comes at a time when production standards at both Boeing and its key supplier Spirit Aerosystems are under intense scrutiny. This follows an incident in early January when an unused emergency exit door blew off a brand new Boeing 737 MAX shortly after takeoff from Portland International Airport." And we've covered a lot of what's happened with Boeing in this video. However, there's a lot more. If you just put Boeing in on Google and hit the news tab, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that's going to come up with Boeing and how many issues they've had and how many incidences they've had. A preliminary report from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board suggested that 4 key bolts designed to hold the door securely in place were not fitted. Last week, the FAA said a 6-week audit of the company had found multiple instances where the company allegedly failed to comply with manufacturing quality control requirements. So if the FAA knows that they're doing this and they have a track record of doing this and they can prove it because, hello, look at everything in this video, why are they not putting their foot on their damn neck to get this fixed? This is a safety issue for every single person that ever boards a plane. And that's the end of the BBC article. However, I found another TMZ article that mentions this person, and I wanted to quickly go over it as well. Ex-Boeing quality manager warns of 737S being back in the air too soon might not be safe. And this article basically covers everything that I've covered up until this point, all the issues with the 737 and this whistleblower John Barnett speaking out. But TMZ has a video, so I'm not going to mince his words. I'm just going to play it for you.
The FAA is saying that the plane is now safe to fly. What do you say?
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are stored properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is, back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane, as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787, because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process. When I first started working at Charleston, I was in charge with pushing back defects to our suppliers. And what that meant was I'd take a group of inspectors and actually go to the supplier and inspect their product before they sent it in. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aerosystems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right. And she was mad. She said, no, said the 2 inspectors were given 2 hours to inspect the whole 41 section and they were kicked off the airplane.
All I'm saying is, if this person that worked for them for 30 years that specialized in aircraft safety is saying that there's an issue, and I don't give a shit what Boeing's saying. And the fact that he is now no longer with us is very, very suspicious to me. If you made it this far in this video and you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it. And since we were talking about planes, leave me the plane emoji down below. I hope you guys all had an amazing day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.